Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Dunnigan Mott Music and Podcast. I'm Dave Dunnigan, and with me, as always, is Mr. Stephen Mott. How you doing, Stephen?
Great, brother Z.
All righty, Elwood.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, well, we are back today. This week was my week to pick an album, and this week I picked the album Saints and Sinners, the 1982 album by Whitesnake, their fifth album, I believe, if I counted right. And this is personally one of my favorite Whitesnake albums. It's got some songs on here that may have not been well known to at least the U.S. audience back then, but they are now. And I'll talk about those as we get into the review. But before we get into the backstory, just a decent amount of backstory to this album, I do want to get into a little bit of news real quick before we get started. And the first piece of news I have, and this is kind of some sad news. We're recording this on May May the 15th, a week from tomorrow, which is Saturday. A week ago from tomorrow, which is Saturday. Little Richard passed away. And he's a pioneer of rock and roll as we know it now. Him, Carl Perkins, Elvis, Chuck Berry, Jerry Lewis, all of those people. And he's one of the last ones left. And he passed away last Saturday, a week ago from tomorrow. And yes, a very sad deal. Little Richard's got some very great tracks out there. Rip It Up, Long Tall Sally, The Girl Can't Help It, Tutti Frutti, of course. All kinds of great tracks out there, and very much an innovator in the genre that is rock and roll as we know it now. Your thoughts on this, Stephen? Have you heard about this?
Yeah, I heard about it on the radio, on 100.7 to be exact. To be honest, I wasn't ever really, I didn't even know about him before, to tell you the truth. But yeah, to hear about, the influence he had and all that, starting rock and roll and all, that's bad news, I guess, brother. But I guess yeah, I didn't really. I don't know why. I just haven't really ever heard about him before. To tell the truth.
Yeah, but it's unfortunate. I really hate it. I didn't really know he was real sick until hearing of his death and stuff. I believe he died of complications from cancer, and now one of the only kind of real well-known innovators that's left is Jerry Lee Lewis, and he's on up there in age as well. And if I'm not bad wrong, I believe he's still been touring here lately. Before, of course, the pandemic happened and everything, I think he was making some appearances here and there, and was doing some shows off and on. But yeah, that just unfortunate news. The second um, news story I have. This is kind of really not news. It's more of kind of me telling me telling everybody about an event tomorrow, which is the 16th. Um, David Gordon Green, I believe, which is director of Halloween 2018, Jamie Lee Curtis, John Carpenter, Judy Greer, and if I'm not bad wrong, James Jude Courtney as well. They're all going to be doing a watch along on Twitter for the 2018 Halloween film, and I'm going to try to check that out tomorrow. I'm not going to say I'm definitely going to, but I'm going to try my best to get on there and see what's going on with it. And really, it's not really news per se, but I'm kind of interested to see what it is. This kind of rumblings, maybe a trailer will be dropped with it. Who knows? I'm looking forward to seeing a trailer for the upcoming Halloween Kills movie, but who knows? I liked the 2018 film quite a bit. To be honest with you, when I watched it, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, but I still enjoy the film for what it is, and I think it did very well to kind of mimic at least the look of the original Carpenter Halloween, but I like the film quite a bit. I'm looking forward to these next two sequels that's supposed to be coming out. And Steven, what's your thoughts on all this?
Uh, well, I think, yeah, I think that they probably released the trailer or whatever with it. And like you said, it shouldn't be too long before they release the new Halloween, is it?
October 16th, I believe.
October 16th? Oh, okay. So did they just announce that?
It's been announced for a while, but I mean, with the pandemic being an ongoing thing right now, I don't know if it's going to be released. There's rumors out there. People saying it's going to be pushed back. There's other people saying it's going to be released digitally. At this point, who knows exactly? I hope it's released to theaters. I'm going to try my best to get down there and see it. I didn't get to see 2018 in the theaters, and I really, really hated that I couldn't have. But you did see it in the theaters, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. And to tell you the truth, it's really not much a huge difference to much, seeing it in the theater and seeing it on DVD or whatever in my mind. But I guess that's about what I think about that, brother.
All right. What's your thoughts on the film as a whole?
The 2018.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, well, it's the whole film is pretty much, you can tell it's made in 2018 in some ways, but in a lot of more ways that you can tell it's the Halloween, movie type of stuff. And like, if you didn't know any better, you'd almost think it was filmed back 20 years ago or something, to tell you the truth, the way it's filmed,
Yeah.
in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm looking forward to these two new Halloween films. The new one has already been filmed. It's supposed to be released possibly later this year, but who knows at this point? And then the other the final one in this kind of quadrilogy or whatever, Halloween Ends, is supposed to come out next year. Like I said, with the other one at this point, who knows? But my kind of final news story that I have, I actually found out about yesterday and was very, very surprised. There's supposed to be a brand new Leonard Skinner movie coming out. And it's kind of been somewhat in a development frenzy because Artemis Pyle was kind of the one who spearheaded this whole thing, and from what I understand, it was Johnny Van Zant, Gary Rossington, the Ronnie Van Zant estate, and the Steve Gaines estate came out against the film and had production shut down, and then went to court or something like that and had it shelved basically. But then the court overturned the ruling, and the movie is actually being released. And I didn't even know it was actually coming out. I'd heard that it had been shelved again. I had no idea. I'm looking forward to this movie. I haven't seen the trailer for the film yet. It's been out there for a while. But like I said, this is spearheaded by Artemis Pyle. I think it's supposed to tell like the story of the plane crash through his eyes or whatever. I'm interested to see it, and I'm hoping that Artemis Pyle really puts forth a genuine effort with the film and doesn't sugarcoat anything. But this is entirely sanctioned by him, not the band itself. And like I said, I haven't seen the trailer, so I don't know how the quality is or anything like that. I'm just hoping it's a really good movie, and I'm looking forward to it when it comes out. I believe it comes out June the 30th. I'm going to try to pick it up, and maybe me and you can sit down and do a commentary on it or something like that. I don't know yet, but I'm going to try to pick it up and watch it and see what it's like. I'm looking forward to it. I'm very interested in it. There's supposed to be a soundtrack released to it as well, but like I said, who knows? That's what I seen yesterday, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm very interested, and from what I understand, with the whole lawsuit or whatever, also supposedly the the states came out against him because it violated something they signed in the contract back in 1988 when they reunited, or 87 when they reunited, saying that, if I'm not bad wrong, it was something in there to where nobody could portray the members or something like that. I don't really know, but that's just something I seen yesterday. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really interested to see it. What's your thoughts on this, Steven?
Well, I think it should definitely be released, brother. And the only thoughts I would have about it, not about it, having the estates of Steve Gaines and the other ones or whatever against it would be, bringing up the plane crash again after so many years later. But then again, really, I think it'd be a good idea to kind of maybe shine some light on it. But my question would be, if the film is really based around that, then is it going to be like an actual, scene of it, or is it just going to be like more like a documentary of stuff like them talking about it?
Well, from what I've heard, it's supposed to be people portraying the members of the band. It's from what I understand, it's supposed to be the plane crash and the days leading up to it or whatever from the eyes of Artemis Pyle. Like I said, I'm not for sure not. I've been following this film for a little while. I heard about it getting shelved, and the trailer came out, and some people came out and said they were interested to see it. I kind of understand it, because you don't want someone bad kind of putting a bad name on the brand that's Leonard Skinner, or the band that's Leonard Skinner is what I meant to say, and or just basically stepping on the name that's Leonard Skinner because it's so iconic and stuff like that. But I mean, Artemis Pyle, I've got confidence he's done a good job on this. It's supposed to be from his point of view, so I'm very much hoping it's going to be a very good movie, and that's pretty much all I've heard with it.
Well, another thing that comes to mind with me is that if you're going to carry on a name like Leonard Skinner for as long as they have, then you can't really be choosing about what you release sometimes, because it's probably been quite a while, since it first started. So really, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like they want to keep making money and all that, and they're probably not going to have to be choosy about what they release and all that, and be so picky about like hampering the name or whatever. And I think they should just release it. I think it's a good idea. That would be my only thought about that.
Yeah, and I mean that's like I said, I'm looking forward to it. I really want to see what it's going to be like. I think it's called Street Survivors: The Story of the Leonard Skinner Plane Crash or something. If it was a biography, it would be weird seeing it from Artemis Pyle's eyes, because that he was not even part of the band at that point. So I think they pretty much ruled out it's not going to be about the early days or anything like that. I'm assuming it's from what I understand, it's going to be the kind of the days leading up to the plane crash. I don't know. Like I said, don't ask me. I just heard some things on it, and that's pretty much all I got on that.
That would be interesting if it was a whole movie about the days leading up to it.
Yeah,
Um, that would be kind of a short realm to go from, I guess.
yeah. And like I said, I should have researched it more and found out things. I just know it had a kind of a it kind of had experienced some difficulty coming out. I think they filmed it and then it was shelved or whatever, and then they've recently tried to release it or whatever. Now, I mean, like I said, I don't know all of the statistics on it or anything like that. I should have researched it a lot more than I did, because I'm coming off now as repeating myself a whole lot. But
Well,
um,
I mean, you knew more about it than I did, because I've never heard the first thing about it before this, to be honest. So
yeah,
I don't even know how where did you first see it at? Like
Well,
just a website?
I heard about it on YouTube, I believe, and then I looked into it and I heard it had been shelved, and then I saw a trailer on Facebook, and I didn't never watch the trailer or anything like that, and then I saw yesterday an ad saying it's supposed to be released, and I was like, oh, okay, well that's gonna be interesting, and I'm gonna have to buy that and watch it and see what it's gonna be like. So. Um, that's pretty much all I got with that one. And
Yeah.
you got anything else you want to say about that story?
Well, I think it definitely should be released. I don't know how long it's been since that they turned it down or it has been filmed initially, but I think it should definitely be released as soon as possible if it's already been done and all.
Yeah. And like I said, I just hope it's good and it's not a sugar coated version of that story. I hope it tells as much as possible, but I hope it doesn't it doesn't do a thing to where it explains it explains a lot of it and makes those members look bad, because I just hope it stays true to kind of a good light, I guess you could say, and not get so much into it to where it kind of makes the band members look bad or whatever, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And but I definitely, I'm like you, I want to see this movie, and like I said.
Well, the subject matter of it is pretty interesting. So it's gonna be, if they're not gonna hold anything back, then they might as well just not worry about offending people.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, there's a lot of drama within Skinnerd anyway, so I mean, that's not the first time stuff like that's ever happened. I mean, that would be a whole thing to get into one of these days. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've got for that. You got anything else to add?
Nope. I've added all my input.
All right, and one more thing before we get into the actual review. Alice Cooper released a brand new song today. I can't remember the title of it at this moment. And I haven't listened to it. I'm going to listen to it after we get off of here. But I'm interested to hear it and see what it's going to be like. And I think it's put out for the people who's to everyone who's going through this pandemic and stuff like that. And I'm interested to hear it. You got anything to say about that, Stephen?
Well, nothing other than there's been quite a few artists that's been releasing stuff about the pandemic and such. There was a real good song released by Luke Combs called 6 Feet Apart. That one was real good, country song. That's probably the major highlight or best one of that particular realm. But I guess that's about all for me, brother. I don't
All
know
right. Like
much
I said,
about Alice Cooper or any of them, but
all right. But like I said, we'll get into I'm gonna listen to it. I may put up a reaction. I don't know yet. It all depends. I may or may not. I don't know yet. But let's go ahead and get into this album that we're going to be reviewing this week. Like I said, um, the album is Saints and Sinners by Whitesnake. This was my pick for this week, and kind of one of the final albums to have that classic Whitesnake sound, because after Slide It In '84, the sound changed pretty drastically and went more toward a heavy metal sound. You could say that maybe with Slide It In as well, but this album, I love this album. I have since the first time I've heard it. There's a couple of tracks. If you're kind of a casual Whitesnake fan, you probably know these tracks. I know you know one of them because it's the version that everyone knows of that particular song is an FM staple. Yeah, and I know exactly. I know you know exactly which one I'm talking about. But
right. But this version on this album is different, isn't it?
Yeah, and we'll get to that one when we get to the track. But
well, of course,
like I was saying, this album has a ton of backstory to it, because this album was actually, it was recorded, if I read right, in 1981. They come off the Come and Get It tour in 1981, which the album was released in 1981. And Come and Get It's a great album, as well as Ready and Willing before it. Those first four Whitesnake albums are really, really good albums. I'm going to be honest, I've liked every Whitesnake album and every Whitesnake lineup. There's one I'm kind of on the fence about, one that I kind of don't particularly, I have some problems with. It's got some great musicians. I just have some problems with it. But I'll get to that a little bit later, talking about it maybe. But this album, like I said, it was recorded in 1981. But from what I've read, Mickey Moody decided, he's one of the lead guitarists. He decided he was going to leave the band, and then basically Coverdale shut the band down. He disbanded the band for the first time, and basically the news got out that everyone had kind of quit the band, and except for David Coverdale and John Lord. John Lord stuck by him, of course. He was one of the Deep Purple members back in the day when Coverdale was in Deep Purple. And John Lord stayed with him. And basically, from what I understand, the band broke up pretty much over lack of funds, really, over financial stuff. I think it was a combination of the band had been living the rock and roll lifestyle for a good little while by that point. And I think a lot of the members grew tired of kind of coming up short on what they were getting paid, because from what I understand, the band that was Whitesnake wasn't really, they didn't have a U.S. audience at that point. They were a UK band, and that kind of leads to how the term the British years, which is known from 1978 through 1984. That's the British years. That's where that term comes from, because that's the early Whitesnake sound before they drastically changed it on the 87 album. But eventually, from what I've read and researched on this, Coverdale decided to reunite Whitesnake, rebuild Whitesnake's what I should say, and he put together the new Whitesnake, and this was the first lineup to where some of the key members of the previous lineup wasn't part of the band, and that meant Bernie Marsden, Neil Murray, who's the bass player, and Bernie Marsden, of course, the lead guitarist, and Ian Pace. All three of those were gone. And Coverdale then put together a band consisting of John Lord on keyboards, Mel Galley replacing a departed Bernie Marsden, Cozy Powell replacing Ian Pace, and a guy named Colin Hodgkinson replacing Neil Murray. And then Mickey Moody was invited to come back. As also, and I'm assuming in Mickey Moody's place, Coverdale originally wanted to get future Whitesnake guitarist Adrian Vandenberg to join, but Adrian Vandenberg had a hit with the band of his own, Vandenberg, so he didn't join. But eventually they went back in and basically finished up this album. From what I understand, the album was pretty much already finished, but they went in and added some backing vocals, and the only person who was from the new lineup that appeared on this album was Mel Galley, who provided some backing vocals and stuff like that, as well as Mickey Moody came in and did some as well. But basically everybody else's parts were left untouched, and that's where you get Saints and Sinners, and kind of somewhat the debut of the new Whitesnake. And then on another hand, really it's not. But what's your opening thoughts on this? I've been rattling on quite a bit here.
On the album, well, I would say it's very blues oriented. and all the songs they're pretty. They're a pretty rough version of the songs, if you know what I'm saying. Rough production also. I guess that's about it, brother. I like the album pretty well.
All right. And this was once again produced by Martin Birch, who had done all their previous albums. And like I said, after this, to me, the British years are the original Whitesnake logo. When they changed the logo for the '87 album, that's the kind of US years of Whitesnake. But I've been kind of rambling on here for a little while, and let's get into this album with the very first track on the album, Youngblood. A great opener track, great opening track, just a great track period. Has a kind of similar feel to the track Burn from the Deep Purple album Burn, which had Coverdale on it. Great drumming by Ian Pace, great guitar work. It kind of sounds like, and I don't think you've ever heard it, but the Bernie Marsden solo stuff prior to this album, this song at least has kind of a similar feel to that. And I don't believe, well, I think Whitesnake may have performed this once or twice on the succeeding tour after this, but I don't think it's ever been. It was never. I don't think it was ever a staple for the band. And it was picked up and performed quite a bit with the Moody Marsden and Murray band M3, and they featured a variety of different vocalists and stuff like that, and drummers and keyboardists. And I like this track quite a bit. A great opening track. The drumming has kind of a similar feel, and to how Ian Pace would drum on Perfect Strangers, which was Deep Purple's big reunion album in '84. But that's pretty much all I've got for this track. Now you take it, Steven.
Well, brother, the only comment I would have for this one is it has a hard rocking feel to it. Not totally unlike the other songs on the album, but it definitely, this one is one of the more hard rocking, I would say. Pretty straightforward track. The way it was cut and everything. I guess that's about it, brother.
All right, and that's pretty much all I have to say with that track as well. That's pretty much all I have to say about this one. And like you said, very, very heavier song, hard rocking track, and kind of a little bit different compared to the previous albums. I mean, a little bit heavier this time around. I mean, it's kind of an interesting evolution going from Ready and Willing to Come and Get It to this album. It's kind of a good evolution of kind of sound or direction comparing them up to this album. But that's all we've got for this track, and then we move to the next track, Rough and Ready, quintessential Whitesnake. A great track, great classic Snake, like I said. Great slide. Solo into kind of a dual guitar type solo with the keyboards and guitars kind of playing the same note or whatever, and was very much it when they played this song live. They extended it out and had two different guitar solos by the two guitarists in the band, as well as a keyboard solo by John Lord. And just a great shuffle and great playing by Ian Pace, and overall just a great track. This was another one they picked up when Bernie Marsden and Mickey Moody, who were the two lead guitarists of the band, when they picked up and started doing a lot of the Whitesnake tracks with another. It was basically Whitesnake reformed, but without David Coverdale on lead vocals. They picked up all kinds of these songs and started performing them. This is one of them. This was kind of a pretty regular staple in the set. But like I said, quintessential Whitesnake song. And there's several different live versions out there from Whitesnake. There's a version from Germany. There's a version from Japan out there, as well as a studio rehearsals version and the version from Donington. I believe it's Donington, 1983, and that's a very good show also. And I'll talk about that at the end. But now on to you, Stephen.
Very bluesy track. Um, I liked it. I liked it pretty well. And the thing is, like you said, the keyboard, our piano solo and all in it. A lot of instrumentational stuff in it. Kind of unlike a lot of the songs on this album because, especially with a piano solo, usually piano isn't even in this type of music, to tell you the truth. So, it's just a little bit different feel, and kind of reminds me a little bit of something like REO Speedwagon would do, with the piano solo and all, with that type of music.
Yeah,
And with an album we did last by REO Speedwagon, kind of reminds me of that. Um, and I guess that's about it, brother. Rough production is all the songs in my opinion, but I guess
yeah.
that's about it.
What do you mean by rough production? That's what I was kind of thinking about. What do you mean by that? Explain.
Well, I just think it's you know, kind of how you'll hear like a demo from a song and it'll kind of have a sort of just unfinished feel to it. I don't know
Yeah,
why. It just seems a little unfinished to me.
it
I don't
does
know.
to me the same thing. I think I've always thought that there's something off about the production of this album because there's another track we're going to get to that at least the drum sound is and the vocals and stuff like that they're very off. This whole album is there's something off about the production on this album. I mean, and Mark Birch is a great producer, but I think it was the fact that it had been shelved and was somewhat unfinished, and they didn't have that band to come back in to kind of tighten things up. And I think that's kind of the reason it has this unfinished feel to it. And I totally agree with you. It does have a kind of a rough, kind of muddy production to it. And yeah, definitely. And I'm glad you brought that up. That explained my whole thoughts as a whole on this album as far as the production went. But
Well, usually I have an interesting way of describing things. I don't really describe things the same way a lot of people would. I just kind of have to explain myself more usually.
yeah, but yeah, definitely it very much has an unfinished sound to it, and I'm kind of like I said, I kind of equate that to it being the kind of breakup of the band, and then reforming it with a brand new lineup and not going back in and changing or tightening anything up from what they already had. I think it was just one of the things where they released what they had, and that was pretty much it. But going into the next track, and this is one kind of a popular song, and this is called "Bloody Luxury," kind of a popular, kind of rocking track. You said REO Speedwagon with Rough and Ready. Um, this one kind of gives me an REO Speedwagon vibe just a little bit. The Rough and Ready definitely does. I can very much see that. But I like this track quite a bit. It's got it's very similar to stuff that came off the albums before it, and it's a lot like the prior songs, "Lie Down," which was off of the album Trouble, as well as the track "You and Me" from Love Hunter, as well as Black and Blue from Ready and Willing. And just a fun song overall. I believe this was a B-side to another track we'll get to in a few minutes. But your thoughts on this, Steven?
I think this is a very typical sounding Whitesnake track. Um, I guess what I mean by that is it's kind of the signature sound for them. The overall setup of the song and the writing. And I thought it was very it has some blues origins in it, like but it's rock also. I think obviously rock because that's what the whole album is supposed to be, I guess. But kind of blues tinged, definitely a lot more than the other songs. Kind of like some of the other ones. Kind of like Crying in the Rain a little bit as far as that goes, the bluesy tinge to it. And I like the track pretty well. So
All
I guess
right.
that's about it.
All right. I don't believe this has ever been performed live ever, so I mean, don't quote me on that. It could have been because it's at times on tours and stuff like early on they'll perform a song like once and then be done with it. This could have been one of those scenarios. I don't really know, but yeah, I like this track. It's a fun track, and then we go to the next track, "Victim of Love." Another kind of quintessential Whitesnake track. Like I said, there's kind of an evolution of sound comparing it back to Ready and Willing up to this. Because this is kind of a trifecta of albums as far as the lineup goes. Because Ready and Willing featured the same lineup as this, as well as Come and Get It featured the same lineup as this, and this album, of course, features that lineup as well. And this is one of the best songs on the album, in my opinion. This very much shows what the sound is, what the sound would become on Slide It In. This does sound like that album a little bit, and it has a great pre-chorus with kind of the ooze in it, stuff like that. I like that. Just a great classic Whitesnake track, great solo and drums, and great backing vocals. And now listening to it, I can kind of make out Mel Galley in there singing as well. But now to you, Stephen, what do you think about this track?
Well, there was parts I liked and parts I didn't. Some like I think there was a concept kind of in the intro or whatever that I think they should have stuck to pretty much, and they just kept on kind of taking it in different directions. And I think the song was kind of all over the place, and I would have done it a lot different. I would have kind of stuck to one thing, you know. Really, what I mean is just early on, like they done one sort of thing, like in this type of music usually, and with other songs on this album, the majority of them have a riff and a kind of overall main feel and a rhythm and it kind of just sticks to that throughout the whole song. And with this genre, I think that's the best way to go. And with this one, they didn't do that. They kind of went in different directions with it throughout the whole song. And I really think that really wasn't the best option. But I guess that's about it for me, brother.
All right, and yeah, now that I mean you said something about the production, I will say, and I've actually never thought about it like this before, but this album, to be honest with you, is kind of actually disjointed a little bit. It does kind of things are there. The songs are a little bit all over the place. Kind of thinking about it. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, yeah, especially with this one.
Okay, and
And well, not just with the production with this one, mainly in the writing with this one.
yeah, and like I said, I kind of equate that to it being they broke the band up and then put this out and stuff like that, and really didn't have that band to come in and tighten a lot of these tracks up. But I mean, I could be wrong, but that's just the way I kind of feel about it now, thinking about it, because you've opened my opinions up a lot now since you said something about the production. I mean, that gave me a kind of a way to explain how exactly I felt about some of this stuff, because I couldn't really think of the exact words to explain how I felt about some of this stuff. But that's all you got for this track.
Yep.
All right, and then we get into the next track, and this is one that's probably known as a very different song compared to this version at least. And "Crying in the Rain," straight up slow kind of a mid-tempo blues kind of a slow blues type song. Um, I love the guitar intro on this track. I think that's very great. I'm assuming, I assume most of the lead guitar is done by Bernie Marsden. I could be totally wrong, but that's what I assume. I assume that Bernie Marsden was kind of Coverdale's kind of go-to guitarist, and I know he was kind of one of the main songwriters as well in the group. But I loved it. I love the guitar intro. A great blues track. Awesome classic Whitesnake track, and it was later re-recorded for the 1987 album, and I call that the heavy metal version because during the Slide It In tour, they put together this breakdown in the middle of it that it was a kind of a centerpiece for the guitar and the guitars and the drums, which I mean is great. They utilized that breakdown on the re-recorded version with John Sykes on guitar. So like I said, re-recorded in a very, very different arrangement. Still kind of the same song, just both versions have a very different feel. The 87 version has kind of a more of a heavy metal feel, a lot of bass, a lot of double bass drums, and a lot of shredding going on throughout. And I mean, I equate that all to John Sykes. I mean, very underrated guitarist, great guitarist. But that's another review some other time. But like I said, it probably my favorite track on the album, probably by far my favorite track on the album. And like I said, when it's live, they extend this song out quite a bit. It's kind of a longer, kind of bluesier jam. They do speed this song up quite a bit live, even before they rearranged the track to make it more heavier. They did speed it up quite a bit, and like I said, featured more kind of a centerpiece for the guitars and drums. This on the tour for this. This was Mel Galley's kind of solo spotlight during the track. He'd do this long bluesy solo, which was awesome, and then you had Cozy Powell behind him playing drums, which was great. And usually they'd either do a guitar solo, which they did with John Sykes a lot. They would stop in the middle of it, do a drum solo. Then when Tommy Aldridge came in, they'd done a drum solo for him in the middle of it, and that's one of his. There's great versions of that out there as well. And great work, great drumming by Ian Pace. I love the organ that's kind of played throughout the track that kind of gives it kind of a very atmospheric feeling, I guess is what you could say. And Coverdale, a very great singer on this track. And I believe this was written about his divorce at the time. And I love the lyrics in this track if I can get them right. No one sees the tears when you're crying in the rain. I love that lyric. I mean, just the visual of it's just to me is great. I mean, I love lyrics that you can kind of visualize and exactly see it. I love that lyric. And Coverdale is a great lyricist to me. And now to you, Stephen.
Well, the only thing I can say about this one, I would say the blues intro in it. I mean the very first guitar part in it that really goes before the intro, but it sounds a lot like something Stevie Ray Vaughan might do. And also, just that part anyway. And then also after the guitar part, there's kind of an off rhythm intro in it that that the hi-hat going with it. You can't really even keep track of it because it doesn't really seem in time to me at all. But I guess that's about it. It's a pretty good track. Kind of like the other ones with the production and everything. Guess that's about it, brother.
All right, and I mean, I was going to say so. Great guitar solo in this track as well. I mean, like I said, I'm assuming once again by Bernie Marsden. And this is the song I was talking about. The production was a little bit off to me. The production on this whole song is, I mean, this is one I noticed in particular that the production's a bit off on. And also, if I read something if I'm remembering this right, a long time ago, that Coverdale said one thing that was kind of starting to separate him around the time that they were writing this track. He said that basically it's that the one, I think it was Bernie Marsden or one of them told him basically it really seemed like he was writing a Black Sabbath song. And he said that was kind of the writing on the wall as far as that lineup went. He said that kind of showed me what they kind of started to think of my songwriting ability or whatever. And that's an interesting tidbit. I can see a little bit of Black Sabbath influence, maybe kind of in the dark, kind of bluesy tone. But I mean, still, it would be interesting if this was recorded by Black Sabbath. That's for sure. But I mean, that's pretty much all I've got. Like I said, with the thing I'm talking about, David Coverdale's songwriting, I love his songwriting. I think he's a great lyricist, and that's pretty much all I've got with this track. I seem like I'm forgetting something, but this is probably like the longest review we've done for a track on here, probably. But that's all you got to say, Steven?
About that one, yep.
All right. Then we move to the next track. I believe this opens side 2, if I'm not bad wrong. This is one that everybody probably knows, but it's a totally different version in this track. But like with Crying in the Rain, that this version of this particular track is not too terribly different. But the track we're talking about, of course, is Here I Go Again. This was re-recorded and in 1987. There's several different versions out there of this track. It's this version. You've got a radio mix, which was, I think, the main single version that was released from the 87 album. That's a pretty cool version. Also, you've got the 1987 version itself with, I believe, Adrian Vandenberg plays the guitar solo on that version. But like I said, another review for another day. Re-recorded for that album and became a much more well-known song, a bigger hit. This was one of, I think, the only single released from the album, from this particular album at the time. There's a video for this. I believe it features David Coverdale walking through a cathedral or whatever, and this features the lyrics "hobo," like a hobo walk alone or whatever. They changed this to Drifter in the U.S. and when we review 1987, I'll talk more about it. Basically, when Coverdale changed the lyric because he thought people would mistake hobo for homo, so who knows with that. It was that was changed for the 87 version. It was changed to Drifter. Like I said, many versions, great backing vocals, and great high notes by Coverdale throughout the track. A great dual solo, and not very much different from the 87 version, just a bit polished or whatever, I guess you could say. But the part that sticks out to me on this track is the solo. I love the dual guitars on this, and now on to you, Steven.
All right. Obviously, it's different from the radio version that's played even now on the classic rock radio. It's a straight rock song, pretty much. What I would say for it is it's somewhat of a mellower sound than the radio version. I would definitely say a much quieter version. The radio version would definitely be more categorized into a little bit more harder rock feel to it, but this one's more of a just kind of straight rock feel, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I to tell you the truth, I think I like it this way better. I don't know why. It's just something different, from that same old thing. It just seems too repetitive if it's the radio version.
Yeah, and I do too. I prefer this version as well. That's all you got to say about this track?
I believe so.
All right, and Yeah, I do. I preferred this version. If I'm not bad wrong, this was a huge hit in the UK at the time, and that's pretty much all I've got for this track. Then we move to the next track, and I mean, I'm going to go ahead and say side one of the previous Whitesnake albums, I think, had their best songs. Side two had their share of them, but I think a lot of the tracks on the earlier Whitesnake albums, at least for side two, were good songs, but very much could be categorized as filler. And this is no exception. Quintessential Whitesnake. This track is called Love and Affection. And Quintessential Whitesnake, like I said, it's kind of filler, but still a pretty good song. The pre-chorus is kind of weak, but full of double entendre lyrics by Coverdale himself, and great keyboards, and has kind of a somewhat similarity to the track Perfect Strangers from the Deep Purple album Perfect Strangers in 1984. But that's pretty much all I've got there. Now to you, Steven.
All right. The only thing I have to say is you might be kind of surprised at this, but I think it kind of sounds sort of southern rockish, something that Leonard Skinner might do or something. I don't know why. It's just something about the rhythm and all to it. I guess that's the only thing that really crossed my mind with this one. I like the track. This is probably to tell you the truth, the opposite of being the opposite of what you said. This is probably one of my favorites off the album here. Um, just kind of because it's pretty unique and it kind of sticks to one idea more than the other tracks. So
Yeah.
I guess that's about all the points I could make about it. I like the track pretty well, brother.
All right, and then we get in to the next track, Rock and Roll Angels. I love the riff that opens this track. Um, the riff's kind of similar to Hurt So Good, I believe, by John Mellencamp. And classic Whitesnake, I love this track. It's kind of filler, but still a good track. It's very similar to the previous albums. Great piano and fun track. How do you, Steven?
Well, I think it's a very unique song from this album, at least. It's definitely has a lighter mood and tone to it from the rest of the songs. And I like it. I like it pretty well. It has a just different feel to it than the rest. The rest of them feel a little more aggressive, and this one feels, more the opposite on the other side of the spectrum. I don't know exactly what word would be used to describe that, but usually rock it can have kind of two sides to it. And this would be definitely on the other spectrum of it. Besides kind of more in your face sort of type of rock. I guess that's about all for me, brother.
All right, and when I listened to this track, this reminds me. There's a track by Heaven and Hell, which is basically Black Sabbath. It's later Black Sabbath, but with Dio singing, and they have a track as well called Rock and Roll Angels. And I don't remember that track a whole lot. I just remember there is a track by them called that. But then we move to the next to last song, Dancing Girls. Kind of filler, a pretty good song. Um, has kind of a similar rhythm to "Walking in the Shadow of the Blues" off of Love Hunter. I do really like the chorus, and has a pretty cool breakdown and solo by John Lord in the middle, and very like the keyboard solo by John Lord is very good. And of course, John Lord, one of my personal favorite keyboardists. And now you get into it, Steven.
Well, wasn't this written by John Lord? I think I seen where it was, but
I
anyway, I this one not a lot of variety to it, in my opinion. Um, it's just kind of seemed like it's the same thing over and over to me. And like you said, I think it could have been left off the album, because it doesn't really seem to fit with this album or really anything about it, to be honest. But it's decent, but I don't really think that it's one of Whitesnake's best, I would say. So
Yeah.
I guess that's fair to say. Not putting it too harshly, but it's decent. So I guess that's about all for me, brother.
All right. Um, that's pretty much all I got for this track as well. I believe they performed this live at least once, maybe. I believe I remember seeing a set list where this was in it. I'd be interested to see how it went over live, but who knows? Then we move to the final track on the album, and that is, it's not actually the title track, but it's Saints and Sinners, and it's the same difference, to be quite honest. But great riff. I love this riff on this track, and it's a great closer to the album. Awesome classic Whitesnake track. A great groove. Overall, awesome track. And I love the breakdown with the solo, and then it kind of changes along with the guitar solo, and it jumps right back into kind of the chorus or whatever after the solo's finished. I love that. And the riff kind of has a similar feel to Keep On Giving Me Love off of David Coverdale's second solo album, North Winds. It has a very similar feel to that track as far as the riff goes. But that's all I have to say about this track. Now to you, Stephen.
Well, I've just got like three things to say about this one. I would say I love the intro and the riff. Well, that's what I'm talking about, the riff. And also, I think they should have probably stuck to that kind of concept of the intro throughout the whole song. I think that would have went over a lot better. They kind of went into a different concept when they got to the different parts. I pretty much it was a decent track, but I think they should have stuck to that. And also, this song, it might be kind of a surprise and kind of off the wall, but it kind of reminds me of something Aerosmith might do, especially like the riff. It kind of reminds me of an Aerosmith song for some reason.
Yeah.
Um, I guess that's about all for me. I think it was a pretty good track, brother, compared to the other ones.
And yeah, that it does actually. Now that you say something, sound like an Aerosmith song. And I like having your opinion on stuff like this because it opens my mind up to a lot of some stuff maybe I didn't actually get first listening to it. But yeah, that's actually, it does remind me somewhat of Aerosmith. And I don't know if I can't remember if I said it or not. I love the groove on this track as well. The groove is awesome. And that brings a close to Saints and Sinners. There is some bonus tracks. There's one bonus track. Did you listen to any of the bonus tracks, Stephen?
No, you sent me a link, and it was just the normal version of it.
Okay. There is a couple of bonus tracks. I believe it's a outtake of Youngblood. I believe it is. Um, it's an unfinished demo. It's just got some like different lyrics or whatever to it. I can't remember the other one right off the bat, but I want to say it was Here I Go Again. I could be wrong. But there's another bonus track for it's a unfinished demo for a track that didn't make this album called Soul Survivor, and I did listen to this one preparing for the episode itself. It's an instrumental. Basically, you can tell where um, they were going to put lyrics to it, but it's an instrumental track. Could have been a very cool instrumental for the album, and has a very cool riff, and It has great drums, like I said, unfinished, and like I said, could have worked fine as an instrumental. And the production on this is the way the whole album should have sounded. If the production on this bonus track sounded that way on the album, it would have by far been awesome. And the production is extremely raw, and I love it. The drum sound is great, and the track itself sounds much more in line to the previous albums out there beforehand with Whitesnake. And just overall, I'll send you the track after we're done here. But this is a great album to me. Like we've talked about throughout, it has its issues, yes, and like I said, I equate that for it being shelved and then brought back with the band basically not even being the same. That's my theory on why it does kind of sound disjointed and unfinished. I think it's a really good album, though. One of my personal favorite Whitesnake albums. Has its share of filler, yeah, and that's pretty much all I've got to say. I give this album an 8 out of 10. What about you, Steven? Final
I would
thought.
probably, I would probably say first of all that I would give it a pretty strong 7 out of 10. Um, Probably just mainly because of the production and all. The writing for the songs seemed to be not mediocre, but kind of average to me. Um, I don't know, but the overall album itself was pretty decent listen all the way through. I wouldn't say it was a quick listen, but decently quick. And then, like was said before, all the stuff to me is really kind of blues based. Um, whoever wrote these songs or came up with the riffs for it, no, I could tell, likes playing the blues a lot. What I'm saying, and like we said before, the songs seem very rough to me. All these songs sound like demo versions of the songs, so which is okay, but it could have been better. So I guess that's about all I can say, brother.
All right, and I like this episode because we're actually mixed on our reactions to this album. I kind of really love it, and you you've kind of been the one to pick out, kind of nitpick things this time. I like that. This is pretty cool episode. But
Yeah.
that has been our review of 1982's Saints and Sinners. Like I said, the sound for the band, it would stay pretty similar for the next album, Slide It In. And, I mean, that's one thing, like I was saying, all of these albums have their kind of share of filler on the album. Slide It In as well has its share of filler. I like Slide It In quite a bit. Slide It In, the U.S. version, is probably my personal favorite Whitesnake album. It changes. At one point, it was this one, and at one point, it was Ready and Willing. That probably thinking right now, it'd probably be Slide It In, the U.S. version. I love the UK version of that album. When we review that, I'll talk more about it. But they did tour after this from 82 through 83. There's several different bootlegs on YouTube from this tour you can hear. There's a Japan bootleg that's very, very good. It's very good quality. There's a Germany bootleg that's okay. That night it kind of seemed to me like Coverdale was having some vocal issues. And there's the Donington bootleg is probably the one that's most well known. They actually released it officially back in the day, I believe on Laserdisc, but it's never been officially released in the United States on DVD or anything like that. I would love to get my hands on one of the Laserdisc. I believe it was released on VHS as well. I'd love to get my hands on that as well. But that's a great show. They do Mistreated. Supposedly that was going to be the final time ever they performed that, which is Deep Purple track. But that's pretty much all I've got for this particular album. And the tour, like I said, their sound would change after Slide It In, and yeah, it would go much more into a heavy, kind of more heavy metal sound with 1987. and Slip of the Tongue. They would kind of reach back to the blues a little bit with, well, I'm going to go through the discography real quick from the albums I've heard. Snake Bite, the first EP, I really enjoyed that. Still Away's great. What's some other tracks on there? Crap, now thinking about it, I can't even remember the track listing on it. Come On's a great song. Bloody Mary, I believe, is on there as well. Trouble, I mean, you've got the title track, Take Me With You, Lie Down, a modern love song. Belgian Tom's Hat Trick's a great instrumental. Nighthawk, a cover of Day Tripper by the Beatles is very good. Love Hunter's great. You've got Walking in the Shadow of the Blues. That's kind of the album where I think they got their sound down pat as far as the essential early Whitesnake, kind of the British years sound. And you got Walking in the Shadow of the Blues, Long Way from Home. You and Me's great. We Wish You Well. Just overall a great album. Ready and Willing, Fool for Your Lovin', Ain't Gonna Cry No More, Sweet Talker, She's a Woman's a very great track. Come and Get It was one that I kind of grew to like a whole lot. That's also been one of my favorites before. You got the title track, which is awesome. Child of Babylon, Lonely Days, Lonely Nights, Hot Stuff, Hit and Run's awesome. Then this album, Slide It In, of course, you got Love Ain't No Stranger, the title track, Slow and Easy, Give Me More Times, awesome, All or Nothing, Gambler, etc., etc., Guilty of Love, which they actually premiered on this tour for this album. And 87's got the essentials, Still of the Night, Give Me All Your Love, Here I Go Again, the re-recorded version, Is This Love, Bad Boys, Children of the Night, all great tracks, much more heavy metal. And then we have Slip of the Tongue, which is great. You got the Greatest Hits, which is pretty good as well from the 90s. Restless Heart, that's one I don't particularly like. Even that lineup and tour was kind of not very good. Good to Be Bad was really good. Forevermore was very good. And I haven't heard all of Flesh and Blood, but I really like that. But that's pretty much it. I'm looking forward to these 3 new compilations they're releasing. And that's pretty much all I got for the Whitesnake discography. We'll, of course, review more albums as we go on. But what about you, Steven?
For this one?
Yeah, just final thoughts, yeah.
Final thoughts. Well, I pretty much said all I can say. Rated it and all. Overall, I think it's pretty listenable. I pretty much like it. That's about all I can say, brother.
All right, and well, have you listened to anything very much this week as far as albums go?
Not well, actually, I have, but it doesn't have anything to do with this genre. I've been
That's
listening
fine.
to I've been listening to some Merle Haggard, believe it or not,
That's good.
and in particular some of his later stuff. And I also went and listened to his original album as well, and I actually like all that stuff. To my surprise, he's a very good songwriter now. So
Okay. And yeah, I really haven't listened to a whole bunch. Of course, this album. That's kind of given that we're reviewing this album now. But
and I would like to add that this is the first time me hearing this one. I believe 2 days ago, and I listened to it again today and took notes. This is pretty much a first impression for me of the album.
yeah, that's and that's what I wanted to do a lot with the podcast. Get a lot of these different albums maybe you've never heard before, and kind of get your opinions on them, because I was very interested in. And I think I played you some tracks from this before, but I don't think you've ever heard it in its entirety.
Right.
But
Yeah, I'm thinking I probably wasn't too harsh on this one, but because I hate when people come on a podcast or I hear any or I read a review and they just down it so much and they say, well, everything about it sucks. I'm not saying everything about it sucks. I'm just saying, every album has its faults, and this one may be a little more than others, but I'm just trying to keep it as real as possible. And like Devon said, pretty much my opinion of it, as a first impression, is probably the best to criticize it, because the more you're going to listen to something, the more you're going to kind of come to be more fond of it, and kind of forget what you would criticize about it the more you listen to it.
yeah, and yeah, I mean, we're being completely honest. We haven't picked an album yet that I where I've hated songs on it, and but I mean, maybe we will one day. Maybe you'll pick something maybe I don't particularly like or something like that. But still, I mean, regardless, I mean, we're going to review it. I mean, we're honest on here about our opinions of this stuff, and that's the way I want it to be on here. I mean, we're going to be honest about our stuff.
And something I'd like to add too is, on that subject. Lately, I've been looking at these reviews and even just comments of stuff on YouTube, and it just makes me mad sometimes looking at them, because it's just they obviously don't know what they're talking about, but they talk it as if it's they're talking fact, and it's just
Exactly.
and it'll be something opinionated, but they'll talk like it's their fact, you know. But
Exactly.
that's just I'm trying to make it a point that I'm not. This is just my opinion, and it's not a fact. What I'm anything really I say, or really on
Yeah.
this whole channel, it should be. It's just my opinion, and you could have a different opinion, and it doesn't. What we say doesn't really, shouldn't really, uh, affect what you think about it as a whole. Anyway, it's just for entertainment purposes mainly. So
Exactly. And I mean, I'm the same way. I mean, people put stuff out there a lot that's like they'll get mad over your opinion. And I mean, everybody has their opinions. Like I've said in the past, that's what makes you special, to comparing yourself to other people's opinions. And I mean, we have our opinion, other people have their opinions. I mean, everybody has one. And I mean, I can't stand for someone to give their opinion on something and somebody say, well, you're wrong, or you're crazy, you're out of your mind. I mean, that's your opinion. I mean, that's something you think. I mean, there's nobody can change that. And I'm totally with you on that whole situation.
the only thing I have left to say about that is some people. Well, if you're gonna go listen to a review of an album, you know, what do you expect? Do you
Exactly.
expect it for all to be just praising it and all? A review doesn't mean, you know, to review it to promote it. It means, just to talk about it, honestly. So, but the only problem with it, with sometimes, is if you're, first of all, if you're going to listen to a review, you know, not even talking about this one in particular, really, just any review, don't really put it down or anything. And then, second of all, if you're in any other really place, like if you're at school or if at work or anywhere, at a social event, anything, talking to people, and don't really spread your opinion so much about stuff, because especially if nobody asks you, because I've had encounters like that before, even directly to me, really, that I've been playing a song or something, and on guitar, and then somebody says, "Well, that song sucks, and you don't need to sing that anymore, and that sucks." And I'm like, "Well, I didn't ask you what you thought about it, you know." So
Exactly.
that's the point I would like to make. That I really don't like to express a lot of opinions and stuff about stuff around a lot of people either, because I've had some bad experiences of me being on the other end of that.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I'm in a lot of Facebook groups and stuff like that, and I see it every day. I mean, some people will get mad over stuff that's not even worth getting mad over, and it's someone else's opinion on something. But I mean, whatever the case may be, I mean, this is our honest opinions on these episodes. And I mean, if it's something I don't like, I mean, I'll tell you I don't like it. If there's a part of the song I don't like, I'll tell you straight up I don't like it. But getting away from that, we're trying to start wrapping things up here in a few. You got an album recommendation for this week?
I would say Merle Haggard, Chicago Wind.
Oh, righty.
That's because that's a good album. That's one of it might be his last album. I'm not sure about that. One of his latest albums. Well, he's dead now, obviously, so he didn't. I mean, I'm not sure exactly the year he died, but it's not been too long ago.
Yeah. I think he died in like 2015 or something like that. I can't remember now. But my pick for this week, I'm going to dive back a little bit in the Whitesnake catalog, and trying to think of which one I really, really want to pick, because I like all the albums prior to this as well as this one. I like all the Whitesnake albums, to be quite honest with you. I've done said it in my kind of little breakdown of the discography here, but what I recommend, I think you can find it on YouTube. It's for sale on Amazon and stuff like that. If you like it, go buy it. And that is Whitesnake's technically it's their second live album, but it was a combination of the first one and the one from that era. And the one I'm talking about is 1980's Whitesnake Live in the Heart of the City. Totally a classic live album, one of my personal favorites of all time. You've got Come On from Snakebite EP, a great version of Love Hunter with like a 10-minute slide solo. It's great. I mean, you've got a great version of Mistreated, a great version of Might Just Take Your Life from Burn. Both that and Mistreated is from Burn. Take Me With You, there's a great version of that on there. Overall, just a great live album. And talking about Love Hunter real quick, the track with the 10-minute slide solo or whatever, I don't think it's actually 10 minutes. It's probably like 7 minutes or so, something like that. When Colin Hodgkinson joined the band on bass, they would do this thing when Mickey Moody would do his slide solo. Colin Hodgkinson would come in and start playing bass, and he is just, I have to send you a video of it. It's awesome just seeing him up there. He's like picking a rhythm out on the bass, and like they're playing this old blues song or whatever, and it's pretty amazing to watch. I have to send it to you.
All right, brother.
But have you watched anything this week as far as movies go, Steve?
I'm trying to think. Well, I don't watch many movies, but or in its entirety anyway. But I have been watching a few shows, and such as that, like a show like Seasons and stuff. That's going on. I've got a couple of them that I've been watching. That's pretty much the only thing that I'm interested in mostly as far as television.
Oh, okay. And what's the name of those shows exactly?
Well, I've got a couple of them. One of them, well, just pretty much old stuff, like the classic stuff, like Sanford and Son, and Gomer Pyle and stuff like that. Kind of more comedy based stuff. That's what I mostly watch on pretty much a daily basis on TV and stuff.
Yeah, well, that's classic stuff there.
Oh yeah.
But stuff I watched, Friday the 13th Part 5. I watched Halloween 6 this week, Psycho 3 this week. What's some more stuff? I watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I started it, I believe Wednesday night, finished it yesterday evening, and then I watched several episodes of the classic cartoon back in the day, Batman animated series. That's a fantastic. I've been a Batman fan for a long, long time since I was a small child, and I love those TV series and stuff like that. The '60s series is awesome. Um, that's pretty much all I've watched. I watched a couple of Kevin Smith films, Clerks 2 and Zack and Miri. I watched both of those last Saturday night, and overall, that's pretty much all I've watched, pretty much. And well, I'm going to get off in a few minutes and watch a commentary of Jason X, which is Jason in Space. I'm probably going to watch along with the guy on Pizile on YouTube. They do he does some great horror related stuff and some other types of movies stuff like that as well, reviews and stuff like that. He was in this group called the Sausage Factory that did different commentaries, different subjects. They're rebranding it over under something else. So I'm looking forward to that. But if you go check out those older episodes, they're great. And that's pretty much all I've got for this week. Is there anything else you want to add, Stephen?
Not that I can think of, brother.
All right, and
Actually, there is. Now that I think about it, we got we just released a single from Devin's up and coming album,
yeah.
"Presence of the Lord," a cover of that song, acoustic version. Have you listened to the one I released, brother?
Oh yeah, it's good quality stuff. Yeah.
On YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I added some different layers, and what I've just figured out that with production that you can have a a fuller sound with just one guitar, because you can just copy it and then put it on both. You could even like on that one I did like two or three times for the voice and the guitar, because kind of had more of a polished sound. It has a very much polished sound to me to it, the way I did it. And plus I figured out you can even master it on that app that I did it on.
Uh-huh.
You can edit the mastering and stuff too. What I think the options are like more clear, or it's called clarity, and one of them is, I don't know. It's just different things you can do with it. Go check that out. I think it turned out pretty well, brother. You sang real good on that one. I didn't know you could sing that high.
I didn't either. But
Well,
yeah.
yeah, you done a real good job on that, and we got that one coming out, about 9 or 10 songs on it, and we're gonna have to work on that some more, brother.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, go check that out. And go check out his YouTube channel. Just type in Stephen Mott, and he's got some different stuff. You're on Anchor FM or Anchor.fm as well, aren't you?
Yes, yeah. I think under the same name it should be Stephen Mott.
Okay. And I mean, go follow my YouTube channel as well. Devin Dunnigan, the Danger Zone Reviews. Put up a brand new review this past Monday of Pet Cemetery 2, and I recorded it several weeks back, so it's a little bit outdated now because it was the day that I'd bought, or day after I'd bought the movie and watched it. But go check that out, and I've released a short video on about Jakey Lee's Badlands album from 1989. I released our episode, the brand new episode of Kiss Rock and Roll Over out there, and it's on Anchor as well. And before this episode, when you listening to it, you'll hear an Anchor ad. So it's officially sponsored. I'm basically trying to sponsor the Anchor app and everything, and I've done a little advertisement for that, and that's pretty much all the ground I've covered. I'm fixing to take a break, and by the time you're hearing this, I've probably did by now. But I'm taking a break from my YouTube reviews and stuff like that. The Danger Zone reviews are going to kind of go on a little hiatus for a little while. Take kind of a season break and see what happens. Try to get some of the focus more on the podcast and get our views and stuff like that up. You can find us on YouTube, on our own YouTube page as well as mine. It's kind of split between the two, to be quite honest with you. Had a copyright issue with Rock and Roll Over, but that has been fixed. It's out there. And have you listened to that yet, Stephen?
No, I haven't.
Okay. And had another copyright issue with a news segment. I'm not worried about that one because it's on Anchor. Rock and Roll Over is now on Anchor as well, so I'm good with that. If it gets taken down, it gets taken down. We can just go off of Anchor, do what we have to do with it. But we've got some commentaries coming up between me and Steven. We've done a Halloween H2O 20 years later commentary for my season finale. We're fixing to do a redo of Resurrection to add to that. So by the time you're hearing this, hopefully it'll already be out and ready for you to see. And that's pretty much all I've got. This will be out at some point. I don't exactly know when. We've got a third episode recorded of REO Speedwagon. You can tune a piano, but you can't tune a fish. And it's very, very short review. I should have added some tracks to it. And I'm not going to add any tracks to this episode or nothing this week, just some music underneath or whatever. But is that all you got right there, Stephen?
That's all, brother, for me.
All right. Well, this has been another episode of the Dunnigan Mott Music and Movie Podcast. This is episode 4, I believe. Whitesnake Saints and Sinners, 1982. And like I said, you can find us at Devin Dunnigan YouTube channel or the Dunnigan Mott Music and Movie Podcast YouTube channel. You can also find us at Anchor.fm. And yeah, that's pretty much all I've got. Thank you all so much for listening or watching on YouTube. And like, subscribe, share all of our YouTube channels, whatever. Share this review once you hear it. And I plug some podcasts real quick and some different channels. The Almost Human YouTube channel, which has Ralph Vieira on there. He does some great YouTube reviews. He has Black Sabbath, Kiss, Diabolus, and Podcastica, which is Ian Wally and Joshua Toomey. It's great podcast there. Decibel Geek podcast, Kiss Room, Podcast, and the Kiss Room is what I meant to say. Shout It Out Loudcast is a great Kiss podcast. They do some bonus episodes within that as well. They've done Whitesnake Slide It In, Van Halen OU812, Def Leppard Pyromania, and I want to say they did another one. I can't remember it exactly at this point. Guns N' Roses Appetite for Destruction. History Science Theater is a great podcast as well, a kind of an all Kiss podcast. Pizzal, which is on YouTube, he does great reviews of different genres of movies. Trying to think of some others that I like to watch a lot. That's pretty much all I've got. And thank you all so much. God bless you. And as I say on my YouTube channel, see you next time.